François Bouchard. With that, I'll turn it over to the Mayor.
Oki Dadanastada Ambawastich Tadse, and good afternoon, everyone. I want to reiterate what Jose just said in thanking our media partners in getting messaging out to Calgarians. Without your broad reach, we wouldn't be able to tell folks what's going on and what we need of them. And I'm going to be really clear on the call to action today. You and I, need to keep reducing our water usage. While we came in at the threshold today of 480 million liters of water used, we can see that water usage is creeping up. So yesterday we used 480 million liters. On Saturday was when we did our best work. On that day, we only used 440 million liters. The next day, Sunday, we went up to 457. And then on Monday, we went up to 472. Today, we can see that yesterday we were at 480. So you can see that there's a slow creep up, and that's not great. While we are staying under the threshold that is critical to ensure that we have enough water for all of us, this gradual increase is certainly becoming a concern. Please remember that this situation is impacting all of us. The water feeder main break is about 60% of the water that we need to pump through the pipes. So if you think about this feeder main providing 60% of the water that we need in our city, and it's broken right now, we have a big problem. We are using our south treatment facility, which is Glenmore, which typically only serves 40% of our communities. It's doing more than double duty right now. So the situation is still critical, and you've all done such a good job in cutting down your water usage. Some of you have gone to doing just a single load of laundry in a week of only your essentials. Many of you are flushing your toilets much less frequently, and some of you are preparing meals that require little to no dishwashing, and that is all having a significant impact in reducing our water usage. And we need you to keep doing that for several more days so we can replace the broken section of pipe, we can flush the full pipe, and then we can test the water pressure and quality. And I know that's asking a lot, and I know that I have asked you to do this many, many times, and it can seem like warning fatigue, but we still need to keep cutting down our water use. And if we do that, we can ensure that we are going to be able to return to some sense of normalcy. And we cannot live without water. And that's why it's important that we learn to live with less water usage over the next several days. The Calgary Fire Department is relying on us to make sure they have enough water supply in case of an emergency. Folks that are in the hospitals or long-term care facilities are relying on us to make sure they can get the care they deserve right now. And our school systems that are in their final weeks of classes are really relying on us as well. I'm grateful to everybody in Calgary and the surrounding area for everything that you have been doing. You listened early, you acted quickly, and your actions have made such a difference in reducing water usage. So please keep it up. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Calgary Emergency Management Agency Chief, Sue Henry.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to start today by thanking Calgarians for everything that you've done to help us conserve water. Our stats from yesterday show that while we are still using less water than normal, there is a slight uptick in our usage for yesterday. Yesterday, we used 480 megaliters, which was more than we used the day before. So today, our call is to please double down on any water conservation methods that you are currently using. Even those small things add up. We've heard from many different businesses around the city and many different residents that are providing some of those tips. We've heard from massage parlors who are lessening their amount of wet towels that they're using with their clients in order to save some water, and we've heard lots of examples from citizens of tips that they're using around your home. So keep sending us those tips. Keep thinking of different ways that you can conserve water. When you're doing indoor water use, please just do the basics. When you're thinking of your laundry, for example, we've been talking about full loads of laundry, but don't do your regular volume of laundry. Just wait for a full load of those things that are absolutely essential until we get out of this critical phase. I know this is a huge ask. We've been in this emergency response for about a week, and I know you're tired of the inconvenience. It's disrupting your commute, it's disrupting your regular routine, and disruptive to your life in general. It's okay to feel disrupted by this. I think we're all feeling the same pressures of that, but please keep standing with us, hanging in there, and doing whatever you can to keep your water usage low. There is some good news for your gardens and your yards this coming weekend. Nature is stepping up to help us out. Rain and cooler weather are on the horizon, and it will be a relief to help us keep those plants healthy. If you have a rain barrel, make sure that there's nothing covering the top of your rain barrel so that you are able to collect the water. And if you do have indoor plants, it's a great time to put them outside so that they are able to get some water. This should help a bit with any impacts that we may be seeing to our plants. City crews are continuing to assess the damage that initially occurred when the water feeder main broke in Shoaldice Park. There is a section in Shoaldice Park just south of the fields that has been roped off due to damage from this initial flooding. There's rubber matting to help our pedestrians detour around this section, and we continue to assess the damage that is in the sports fields, the pathways, and the neighboring roadways to determine what kind of repairs will be needed. Pathway information about those current conditions and detours is in place at calgary.ca/pathway closures. And as of now, all programming at Shoaldice still remains cancelled. A few numbers for you today. Our 311 teams have been working hard to manage the call volume. To date, they have logged 4,101 calls to 311 specific to this event, with over 10,500 calls listening to the recording as they call 311. Our bylaw officers continue to use an education-first approach. We've had 1,170 calls since June 6th, and we've made contact with citizens in 1,077 of those cases. Our bylaw officers remain out today in full force to help continue to do the education approach. There have been 306 written warnings, 368 verbal warnings, and 1 summons has been issued. With that, I will pass to Director Mackay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to once again thank the crews that have been working around the clock, both on site, getting ready for that repair, as well as at our water treatment plants. And I want to indeed thank Calgarians for your patience and for reducing your water use while we're able to focus on this work. Now, I want to walk you through what we've completed to date, where we're at, and what we're anticipating for next steps. Additional results, what's been completed, additional results from yesterday's more extensive internal inspection of the water feeder main pipe have come in, and our teams are busy assessing and looking at that information. We've now completed inspection of 1.8 kilometers of the pipe. We've completed our plans with Alberta Health Services and environmental protected areas, which includes flushing and the next steps to be completed once the repair work is done. Today, there are crews out working on welding repairs on some of the access hatches along the sections of the pipe. The new section of pipe was completely disinfected this morning before it was lowered into place. You can see the pipe here before that disinfection was happening. The pipe then being lowered into place. The big job now for our team is to get that pipe into place, and there's a large metal ring that will go around the new pipe, connecting it to the existing on both ends, and that's going to be welded into the evening through as things start to get dark, I think, this evening. We'll continue to use the purpose-built robots to gather information from the existing pipe while we're continuing to work on the repair. What can you expect next? We continue to monitor water demand and our overall water supply, and that's really about ensuring that every community in Calgary has the water, and we're moving it around, that limited water, to everyone in the city, because this indeed does impact us all. We continue to assess the condition of the pipe to better inform any precautions that we may be necessary as we bring this pipe back into service. Once the welding of the pipe is completed, we'll continue to apply a protective coating on the pipe and take some measures to prevent corrosion. We will be conducting inspections of the work, and then we'll begin to rehabilitate the site, backfilling the earth and moving forward. Before we do that, though, we'll then be removing shoring cages. Those are the large protective boxes that you may have seen with ladders across the site in the videos that we've been showing. Those are there to protect workers. We need to bring those out. We have to move in large equipment, big excavators to pull those out. And so that work and getting that equipment out will be needed before we can open up 16th Avenue. This has been a huge convenience for folks. I absolutely appreciate that. And I appreciate patience of those while we're working, again, 24/7 on all those steps I just described so that we can get that repair done to open that road. There have been some questions just moments ago. Certainly, we had heard there is a water main break in Bowness somewhere. This sounds like a usual one for us. We did not have any 311 or 911 calls, but I have a crew en route right now. So just know we're, again, monitoring the situation as things arise, responding. With that, I'd like to turn over to my colleague, Director Bouchard, who has some additional information for you.
Thank you, Nancy, and good afternoon. I know that many of you are interested in what did we know about the pipe before the failure. There was no indication that the section of pipe was being stressed. The pipe is approximately 49 years into its 100-year lifespan. Our regular modeling of the pipe, incorporating risk factors like age, pipe material, operating pressures, did not give any indication that a physical condition inspection was required. The feeder main operated well within its pressure limits. The installation of acoustic monitoring equipment in early 2024 provided no indication that the pipe was experiencing issues. A physical inspection would have required shutdown of the pipe, putting stress on other pipes in the network. Excavation to visually inspect the pipe would increase the risk to the pipe unnecessarily. Working in partnership with industry, the city will now conduct pipe inspections without having to stop water flow in the pipes. This work will commence this winter. With that, I'll hand it back to the mayor.
Thank you very much. And Director Bouchard, I appreciate the fact that you've had a longstanding relationship with industry to work on new technologies that would help us use different methods of assessing and monitoring the condition of our infrastructure. Yesterday, I gave you all an example of why this situation impacts all of us, and whether you live in North Calgary like I do, or you live in the South like many of you do, we have all had occasion to travel the Deerfoot. And I want you to think of the times when you were moving along quite nicely, and then all of a sudden an incident caused traffic to come to a standstill. And that's not a great situation. I want you to now think about the fact that the pipes that are in the ground to deliver water to the various parts of our city are like that road network that you are so used to. And I want you to understand that this feeder main that's broken is like the Deerfoot. And like those days when you're at a standstill in traffic, this feeder main breaking has put us in a water gridlock. We cannot get 60% of the water that we typically flow through this pipe out into our various communities. So that's why this is important to all of us right now. So thank you in advance for keeping up your great work in cutting your water usage. I appreciate everything that you've done so far, and I know we have asked a lot of you. And I know that the incredible crews who are working on the repairs and those who are working on the plans to restart the water, as well as those who are looking at quality assurance of the water, they also appreciate everything that you're doing. And because we appreciate these teams very much, I know that we'll do everything we can to continue being good water stewards. And with that, let's go back to Jose to field questions from the media.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll start with the CBC.
Hi. Can we just get the data on the stretch of pipe that is being replaced? What's the approximate length of that?
Sure.
The question was the exact length of the pipe that's being replaced, and I will have to follow up. I don't have the exact measurements myself. Again, things are happening quickly out there, but happy to provide that in a follow-up.
And not sure who in the team is best placed to answer this, but we continue to get calls from Calgarians who are upset that there are still car washes in town that remain in operation. Not all of them use recycled water, as I understand. Some of them do. So people are being asked to reduce their water usage. I'm just wondering about these businesses that remain in operation. Can the city ask car washes to shut down or reduce their hours, or is this entirely up to the business owner?
The question was in and around car wash use of water and those that are remaining open. And what I can tell you is that we've been working with the Car Wash Association, folks that do run car washes, and indeed, as you noted, many of them, 85%, recycle that water and reuse it. Many of them have actually shut down their operations, and again, we have absolutely worked with them for folks to reduce that water use and asked folks to delay their car washes, and people have absolutely done that. We will be continuing to work with them, and if we need additional reductions, we'll continue to work with them to respond to that.
Mr. Bouchard, I just have a couple of clarifications. I know yesterday when you were speaking at council on your presentation, you talked about catastrophic failure. I think when one of the councillors kept asking you about leaks, and eventually you said, no, what happened was a catastrophic failure. For those of us who don't know that terminology, if there wasn't a crack or a hole or some impairment of the material or whatever, I think the average person would wonder, what does that mean, a catastrophic failure? I mean, it just all of a sudden blew up for no reason? I mean, does that rule out human error? Maybe something happened because, when people were working, or like, what does that rule out? What does that really mean? Because things just don't blow up as an act of God, usually.
So thank you for the question. And the question is, what do we mean by catastrophic failure? And a catastrophic failure is simply a failure that doesn't evolve gradually. So if you think of a metal pipe and it had developed a crack, then the crack over time would slowly open up. And as a result, what you'd have is you'd start seeing a change in the performance of the pipe, and you might be able to react. In this case, what you have is metal wire that snapped. So it's like all of a sudden metal wire snapping, you're pulling tug of war on a metal wire and it snaps, you would fall back catastrophically onto your butt. It's the same kind of thing here in terms of the wire snaps and there's no structural integrity left, so the water just gushes out as one big event.
And I guess it's supplementary. Again, you're skilled at it. We're not experts in this area. So you're saying the wire snapped on the pipe, that wire you see in the picture.
And it requires many wire snapping, so it's not as...
So many wires snapped. The
Yes.
wires we saw in the pipe. And so unclear, if there had been a visual inspection, which I think you sort of said in the first answer when you were giving us the briefing, that didn't happen.
Correct.
Would that have been detected?
So a visual inspection of the pipe would have provided indication of the condition of the pipe, including potentially whether or not some of those wires would have snapped. The acoustic monitoring can also tell you whether or not the wires are snapping because you can hear them. Again, our acoustic monitoring didn't pick up wire snaps that would indicate that we were leading towards a catastrophic failure.
So then what happened? How do you explain to the average person, not what happened making the wire snap, but it was never picked up by anybody?
Sure.
I think the really important thing to remember right now is what happened is what we are trying to identify. But right now, the crews are fixed on getting the repair done. They are working hard to make sure that we can get water restored. The why and the what are certainly questions that we take to heart, and we will get you those answers as quickly as we can. We don't have that answer for you today. What we can tell you is that there's regular modeling, as we have heard, and there's no indication that this was going to happen. All questions will be answered in due time. Right now, we just have to get our water supply up and running. Thank you.
Mr. McVicker, Global.
I have a question about I know there's a few water main breaks across the city, but specifically in Bowness. I know on Friday there was one that flooded a few basements. People in that community were told additional pressure in the pipe. This other one that's kind of popped up this afternoon, still obviously under investigation. But is it possible that additional pressure in some of these pipes as the city bypasses the feeder main, could that potentially cause what we're seeing with some of these water main breaks, specifically in Bowness?
The question was, there have been a few smaller breaks in Bowness, and could those be related to the water movement that is different? And indeed, there are many reasons for water breaks, and one of them is changing direction. When we purposely move water in a different direction, it does stress things. We're very careful about that, and absolutely, they're minor changes, and these are small breaks that, again, we are committed to staying. Our target is under two days, 48 hours, to get folks back in water services. They could be. We never fully know. And again, calgary.ca/water outages for anyone who is experiencing, which we do experience about 200 of these. Are not the large breaks. These are small breaks. And you can find out what crews on site investigating where a water wagon might be and when that work is completed. It's all up to date there. So folks can find that.
I mean, just how significant is the effort to bypass the water around the community? Is it going through the Bowness area? How does that work to get water to that community despite
the question is, knowing that we have brought water into the Bowness community in a different way, what does that mean? There are many pressure zones in the city. We have a lot in Calgary because we're a really hilly community. That means where these large reservoirs or the storage in the community of treated drinking water occurs. What we have done is we've actually we've got water from a different area that we've rerouted a pump zone where the water is coming from a different area into Bowness. It is not tied to a big reservoir as some communities sometimes are. So it'll be a little different in terms of pressure, but that is what we've done. I hope that helps explain a little bit.
One for the mayor as well. I'm curious, just, I know there's been a lot of talk this week about infrastructure, aging infrastructure. People want to know how old the pipe is. Is there any thought on the council side to maybe start to dive into funding some more for that aging infrastructure, doing kind of an audit, would you say, about what we're seeing in terms of some of our older water infrastructure, spurred on by what we saw with the feeder main.
I think this event has brought us to a point where we need to be very thoughtful about the age of all of our infrastructure, particularly when it comes to water. We are committed to providing safe, quality drinking water to all Calgarians, and this is just a reminder to us that we must listen to what our teams are telling us when they come to us at budget time, when they remind us that we need to make sure that we are committed to the work around monitoring and replacement of infrastructure. To date, Council has been very good about ensuring that we take water treatment very seriously and that we are investing every time we can into making sure that the system is safe and reliable for everyone. We also rely heavily on infrastructure partnerships with both the federal and provincial governments. And typically when it comes to water-related infrastructure, the funds that flow from the federal government to the provincial government are dispersed to smaller communities because it's felt that those communities don't have a population that could provide the support necessary through utility rates. And so because the bigger centers do have more people living here, we rely heavily on utility rates. And I think we may need to revisit those models. But again, that's not a conversation for today. Right now, we are just absolutely focused on getting water going in Calgary for everyone. And to answer the CBC question about the length of pipe that's being replaced, we've just heard it's 23.5 feet. Thanks.
Just the Franklin water main that broke yesterday afternoon, how long will it take to repair, and how long will businesses have to remain closed?
The question is around a water main break in Franklin right now. I would again ask folks to have a look at the water outages, calgary.ca/water outages. I have been so focused here on this crisis and moving forward at our Emergency Operations Center that I don't have the specifics with me on that one, but the team is there, and if there's a particular question, I'm happy to take that after and get that information to you.
Take a couple more, Mr. Dipple. Don't know if it's a tie question or a Bouchard question, but
Okay.
Francois, your ears should have been burning this morning because your name was mentioned a few times during a council committee meeting. I know how you mentioned before how important the stretch of pipe is in terms of the operation of the whole system. Can you just explain why there isn't a redundancy in place now and what it would take to have a redundant system in place in case this happens again?
So the question is around redundancy and the importance of that. And certainly, I'll begin, and if Director Bouchard can assist me to supplement, welcome that. Our water system is actually built, redundancy is a word we use a lot because it's very important that in each community we have multiple different pipes that come into it, just like with Bowness. What I was just explaining, that when one goes down, we have another way to provide that system. So really important, and certainly with the city's growth, what I can tell you is that there's so much growth in Calgary that we do have plans for additional servicing that would be redundant or would be an additional very similar movement of water like this pipe, and that is on our long-range plan, and we're actually, because of the city growth, that's advancing that. A large pipe like this, I want to say, does take a long time to build. So we're always future out 30 years, what that might be in our long-range plans, and then as well in a shorter time frame, what it's going to take to build those new pipes. We're always looking at that, and when we start that, and certainly those are things that I know our engineering team is all over.
Just further to that, is a redundancy for this pipe then now, is that moved up the priority list?
So this event has definitely reinforced the need for redundancy of the pipe. But we have been already many years in the planning of the redundancy components that are needed in the medium term. And those include some of the infrastructure that you might have heard referenced in the past in terms of the North Calgary servicing option that will be a feeder main that runs north of the city into the northern part of the city. We also have a project to add additional storage around the Glenmore water treatment plants, and to complement the North Calgary servicing option, we actually have on the books a South Calgary servicing option, and each of those are staged over time. And as Dr. Mackay indicated, we are talking about years of planning, design, and then construction for those assets. So these are always long-term decisions that we incorporate. We've also been doing other pieces of work that are less obvious to deal with redundancy of the system. It's not just about putting a pipe parallel to the existing pipe, doubling it up, if you like. There are many other ways that we create redundancy in the system, including the fact that we have 2 water treatment plants, and what improvements we've made over time at those plants, and what improvements we make in other parts of the city system.
Last question, any takers?
I will, Waterworks. Yeah, yeah. I'm highly curious to the complexity and the staff added at the Glenmore unit. My imagination says if there's 10 reservoirs, okay, we're closing down 1, 2, and 3, and we're filling 7, and then closing down the other 3. Is this done by computers? Have you had to actually send guys out manually? They shut down the one reservoir as we trip the money around. So the question is, is there additional stress to all your guys working at Glenmore? Have you added more staff to Glenmore? What's the complexity of moving the water around the city in 30 seconds?
Thank you. That was a lot of questions in one, and I appreciate the interest. Are we adding more staff? How do we move water around? How does that work? Is it a manual thing? So to start off, our little engine that could, which is the Glenmore Water Treatment Plant, that is serving the majority of the city right now, we are operating that and taking very good care of that right now, and we have some exceptional staff there who are doing that. From Glenmore Water Treatment Plant, they and the Bears Paw, what's still coming out of drinking water coming there. We control the pumping through the city through our control system, and that is from the plants that moves that water, and they are making decisions about where that goes. And we monitor the level of the reservoirs throughout the city. And we've got dashboards in computer control rooms that we're doing all of that. Have we added staff? We have not added staff. We are taking care of our staff and making sure they are working long hours and making sure that everyone is rested to do the due diligence to make sure we're getting that drinking water to everybody.
I imagine they're working through the night.
Are they working through the night? We are a 24/7 operation all the time, and they are continuing to do so.
All right, folks, thank you very much. Reminder, the mayor will have an update at 8:30 tomorrow, and we'll be back here tomorrow afternoon too. Have a great day.